just to pick up on what Rabbi Mason Barkin was saying at the beginning of the service about this very famous and very important line in this week's Parsha about justice, and this repetition of the word tzedek, and why tzedakah, and righteousness, and volunteerism, and all of the things, all of these themes that we've talked about tonight are so important. There is this really great aspect of the Parsha that I did not want to pass without mentioning because it is so interconnected in such a cosmic way to everything else that we've been thinking about tonight, but also with everything that's going on in our country on a daily basis. The idea of justice cannot in Judaism exist without the idea of compassion. And while this is a paradoxical, if not problem, it is part of the nature of a system of justice to see things in terms of what is and is not just. As Americans, we believe in the idea of a blind woman, a blindfolded woman, holding scales. And in Judaism, we believe in a God who judges us with scales. The God of, apropos the High Holy Days, judgment, and the God of compassion. So too, Lady Justice, for us as Americans, is blindfolded in order to teach us that justice, for some, that justice is equal. As we see in the Torah, that it is not given deference to the rich or to the poor, to the haves or the have-nots, that it is equal. But we have to have both. We have to be able to contain both on the scales in order for it to be balanced and not be fakir. That's not in any United States documents, but it is in documents of Judaism. Fakir meaning upside down, chaotic, crazy. Justice and compassion, therefore, go hand in hand. And that is what Moses teaches the Israelites in Shoftim, in this week's Torah portion. That it is not just the so-called black and white nature of justice that must be upheld. That is to say, there are things that are just and things that are unjust. There are laws that are pretty clear, black and white, as to what you can and cannot do. You need that in a society. But you also need, we learn from Moses, compassion. Compassion means the ability to see beyond the rigidity of a justice system or a system of justice in order to see others as also being created Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. We learn from Shoftim, and I hope you'll learn and study this Parsha during this Shabbat and come with us on a journey of learning about it during Torah study tomorrow, that one cannot claim to love God and not be passionate about justice because of its primary role in Jewish life, but also as a Jewish contribution, a Torah contribution to humanity. And at the same time, one cannot claim to love God without a passionate pursuit of compassion, of righteousness, of tzedek. There is a stark contrast between those sometimes who, in their pursuit of justice or in their pursuit of the cause of justice, who can be dispassionate, show no compassion whatsoever for others. Rabbi Bradley Shavit Artson says that we betray the broad heritage of Torah when we fail to recognize that justice and compassion or righteousness are primary religious categories of Judaism, but that the practice of them must be done together. When someone tells us that things can only be understood through the myopic prism of the justice system, even if that means hurting other people, that is not a Jewish concept. We cannot function as Jews, created in the image of God, if we do not do both. One, the pursuit of one form of justice, the kind that we think about when we are getting all tribal and righteous about our position on something, the pursuit of that kind of justice myopically without the integration of compassion is not justice. Just the same as loving everyone and then being inclusive of everyone without rules and regulations is not justice. And therefore, it is not Jewish, and therefore, it is not what God is asking of us. And this isn't just biblical, it's rabbinic as well. So when you study this parsha, this Shabbat, I hope you will learn that you need both. God loves justice, and God loves righteousness. And both are definitions of the word tzedek. God loves righteousness and piety. God loves compassion and morality that is backed by a system of law. God loves both. And in Judaism, you can't have one without the other. The whole thing falls apart, and the scales, if you will, of justice tip, and the world turns upside down and becomes chaotic. And if we can't at least agree that that may be a little bit of a problem in our society, where we look at one at the expense of the other, I think we're going down a really, really difficult road. Again, the Torah's gift to humanity, the Jewish people's gift to the world, is the idea, as paradoxical as they may seem, and as dysfunctional as it may seem, of seeing every human being through the prism of tzedek and tzedek, of justice and compassion, of law and kindness. So on this Shabbat, for all these reasons and so many more, I pray that we will affirm and open our minds to the idea that tzedek means two things that right now appear to be in stark contrast to each other, but they're not meant to be. Let us consider ourselves pious Jews, but let us also consider ourselves righteous Jews. Let us consider ourselves Americans who believe in the law, but also Americans who believe and feel love for human beings simultaneously. And let us, as we end this evening, commit ourselves to making our world a more just and a more righteous place. Shabbat Shalom. I am